record. It's time to roll out the red carpet for our first ever guest. She's a global luxury real estate powerhouse and CEO of Luxian International Realty, a real estate company using blockchain technology. She's authored Handle It, Get It Together, and Finally Have It All, a book about her have it all philosophy with hard work, tenacity, and persistence. And she's also been a champion fitness model. Please welcome Luciane Serifovic.
Yes, we got to get the whole audience.
How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You know what? You said it the right way. That's how they would say it in former Yugoslavia. But Serifovic will be the American way.
Got it.
Serifovic would be the real way, right? So you did just fine.
Awesome. So is this where your family comes from?
No, I'm actually born and raised in Brazil. And I came to the United States when I was 18 years old. And I didn't know that when you get married, taking the husband's last name was an option. I thought it was mandatory, right? So that's my husband's last name.
Got it. All right. So tell me more about your journey. How did you get to where you are right now in, in real estate and doing amazing things?
Thank you. Well, my God, where should I begin? But I was born and raised in Brazil, like I said, and I came here when I was 18 years old. And I knew I came to America to live the American dream. I didn't know how. So since I was a little girl, I was always looking for clues on how to succeed. And it gets a little bit deep, but basically I've discovered that as a child, I won a competition that it was a rollerblading competition. And then I won a fitness model competition, not fitness model, I'm sorry, modeling competition. And I got the taste of what it's like to win. And I became pretty much my entire life obsessed on winning and being successful. And when I came to America, that was part of my journey, was how do I become successful? So when I came here, I had all kinds of jobs because I actually couldn't even live here. I was an illegal alien for several years. And I had a lot of jobs, from babysitting to making coffee at a coffee shop. And then my first real legal job was working at an immigration advocacy service company, helping people become US citizens and green card holders. And it was a great experience to get on my resume that I had some administrative assistance experience, because before that, I really didn't have anything. But during that process, I met a young man. He was 18 years old, and he had bought his first car and a home when he was 18. Wow. And I said to myself, wait a minute. So I went to my friend who knew him, and I said, would you mind telling me what he does for a living? And he said that he was a real estate agent. Then I'm working at this boutique clothing store, one of the 3 jobs I had. And this woman comes in, and every time we had new merchandise, she would spend an average about $1,200, while everybody else spent about $200. So I asked my manager, I said, what is it this girl does? What does she do for a living? And he said, well, she's a real estate agent. So I said, that's it. That's what I'm doing. And because everyone who I saw at a very young age who are very successful, they were in real estate. So that's why I got my real estate license. I've been licensed since I'm 20 years old. And I found out later that in the US, especially in New York, if you have a pulse, you can get a job in real estate, because it's an independent contractor. You don't have anything. It's just really, you're a freelancer. And I still couldn't get a job at the time. I went to a few people, and they said, well, you barely speak English. You're so young. You don't know anything about the city. And no one really wanted to give me a chance. So one particular company, I had a friend who used to be a manager and knew somebody there, and they wouldn't give me a chance. It was my first, I didn't even own a suit. So I bought a suit. I bought a fake prescription glass to be able to look a little bit older. And they wouldn't give me a chance, but I kept calling him and calling him and calling him. And one day he said, okay, enough, like, stop bothering me. Fine, I'll give you a chance.
Will you stop if I hire you?
Exactly. So he saw the persistence and the perseverance that I had, and then eventually he gave me a chance. But I knew no one, and I didn't know how to speak the language that well. I didn't know how to even get around the city, so I had to fake it really everything, right?
Yeah.
From even speaking the language. I don't even know how I passed the real estate exam. So I started actually when I got my real estate license. I could still smell the burn from 9/11. That was in 2002. It was almost a year later, and you could still smell the burn from the buildings downtown. So I've been around the block now for 18 years, and it's been an exciting journey. And I worked very hard. I worked so hard to a point to get sick, but thankfully, sometimes these scary moments is what really kind of opens your eyes. So I've been on a mission, and because I was so sick from working real estate, I started to worry about my health, and I became very health and fitness conscious, and started doing all kinds of things, including bodybuilding competitions, which is not so healthy for you now that I've done it. But yes, I'm extremely driven, and I everything I do is I do to win, because that's just how I grew up. It was just always looking for clues on how to win, and what I realized was blockchain is the future. So I worked for a lot of brands, and I worked as an executive for a lot of different companies. I was a director of international sales for the last one, and they went out of business because the real estate industry has been disrupted. So in order to be a sustainable business model, you really can't have brick and mortar anymore.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies came to me and said, hey, I would like to hire you. But every company I met, this was in 2017, I'm meeting with them, and I'm asking, what do they do for technology? You know, do they know about blockchain? What are the tools they use for social media? And you know, what was their innovation? No one knew anything about technology, and they really didn't have a vision. Most brands were not luxurious brands. Most brands were very focused on helping the real estate agents, but not really having any focus on the clients. And obviously, if you don't have a happy client, then you don't have an agent, right? So
Right.
they did an emphasis on experiences and doing a great job for the customer. So when I was very disappointed meeting all these firms that I didn't see myself in, because I've always worked so hard with all these companies I work for, and I always walked away having a salary, which was great, but then I never had equity, and I basically walked away with nothing all these years.
Right.
So I wanted to be, you know, the innovation and the pioneer in the real estate industry, because I realized that every office I managed, one of them was 360 agents, and it was always these empty desks. It was just all this waste of money going to real estate. And I decided to be the first virtual luxury real estate company that is servicing high net worth individuals, sports and entertainment clients, but also using blockchain technology, because I know it's the future. And that's how our clients, because especially the clients in that space, they really want confidentiality. And I wanted to make sure that their information was safe.
How
And
did
that's
you
why,
find out about blockchain? How did you get interested in that?
you know, I know a lot of people in the industry, and I have a really good friend of mine he was my agent, then became my mentor. And he was very involved because he always looks for what's the newest, most exciting things. And I was always very interested in technology, just because I was always the youngest manager.
Mhm.
Everyone was much older than me. They were male. And I said, you know, if I'm different, right? I'm young. I'm not like them. So what would be my value or my edge? So I always felt that I needed to do something that they didn't know. So because they were older, they had a real hard time with technology. So I was always very curious. So I always really knew more about social media than everybody else did. Than I knew more about technology. So I was just curious. And my friend told me about it. So I started researching to understand more about, you know, what is the newest trend and what's the future of real estate.
Yeah, and so being in the real estate industry for so many years, what do you think are the biggest challenges, even before COVID and now after COVID that we're facing?
Yeah, it's just the business is there's so many people involved, and every city is different because I do business all over the world, right? So, like in London, as an example, the agents are employees, right? In the U.S., they're independent contractors, but overall, there's always multiple people involved. And when there's so many people involved in the transaction, is it's hard to be able to keep the experience excellent. because you're no longer in control, right? So an example here, I help them when they're buying and selling and investing, but there's a banker involved that's helping them with the mortgage if they're not buying cash. Then you have an attorney who's involved. Then they have to do an inspection, and that's another person. So there's all these people involved in the transaction, and typically one of them dropped the ball, and I'm the one like lifting everybody, make sure they're doing their job, right? And that's, I think, the biggest problem. And unfortunately, also, there's a very low barrier of entry in the real estate industry. So here, to get your real estate license, you really only need 70 plus hours, I think 72 hours of education. And then you pass a very easy test that I passed without speaking English. So I'm grateful it was that easy, you know.
Everything in America is easy, you know. Driving test is also, you can, you know, pretty much drive into the DMV for the first time in your life and pass the test. But you know, I think it's what you make of it. You know, not everybody gets as successful as you, and I think, you know, one of the reasons why is because you keep talking about how you're driven, how you've always wanted to win. So I wonder, and I see this a lot. I see like all these successful CEOs who get up at 5 in the morning and they go for a run first thing right in the morning. So I wonder if you, and maybe you wrote about that in your book as well. What is the, you know, what is the connection between sports and success in business?
You know, at the end of the day, I'm very aware of psychology, and I've gone through a lot of learning on human psychology. And what I realized is that overall in life, what's really most important for human beings is love and connection. So everything we do is somehow connected back into love and connection. And then the other is significance. So in general, people are doing what they do to feel loved, or they're doing what they do to feel significance, like they matter in this world. And I think an athlete's one of those. You know, I'm an athlete too, right? So I've done bodybuilding, I became a North American champion, and it could be good and bad. Like everything in life, it could turn good and bad. Anything too much is bad. So for me, because I was so driven in succeeding in real estate, I worked 7 days a week for 4 years. I was 9 months pregnant with my first child, and I was still in the office the night before. And then I went back to work like less than 2 months after I had my son. And it was just too much, right? But look, I wouldn't have gotten where I am today if it wasn't for that. But I was obsessed, right? I really wanted to succeed. And the sacrifice was, I always had a real hard time having long-term personal relationships with people because I was always so focused on winning. So everything in life, typically there's a sacrifice. And I'm sure most athletes, they have something in their life they struggle with because they're so ambitious and they're so driven and so focused that something usually happens in their life that is lacking, for the best way to explain it. I hope it makes sense. But now I'm aware of this, you know, because I'm an adult and I'm experienced in life. And I realize that winning is not everything. So I could still be successful and have amazing relationships with people and have a great life.
That's a great philosophy to live by. It's funny because your dog is barking and my dog is barking. I think they're talking to each other.
Maybe.
And it's like, I don't understand. This dog is speaking English. So, okay, very cool. So tell me a little bit about your book. So who is this for? What did you write about?
So I wanted to, while I was finishing up the book, I had a moment in my life that I felt like I have it all. And I wanted to inspire other people because I always felt like people were always struggling with something. And I felt like, let's say I've got it. I've been married for so many years. I have an amazing relationship with my husband. I have 2 beautiful children. I have the job of my dreams. I drive the car that I want. I own a home. I'm like, I have it all. So I wanted to help other people come into realization that they can have it all too, through some of the life lessons that I've learned. And at the very end of the book, though, when I was almost finished, my daughter at the time was 12 years old, and her friend was diagnosed with a brain tumor, that it was terminal. And I said, wow, this book is not, I didn't write it for me. I wrote this book for somebody else. This book was meant to help somebody else. So at the time, I took that as an opportunity to launch the book and take all the proceeds to help raise money for the family because I had to stop working to take care of the child.
Wow.
Unfortunately, she has passed today, but that was what that book was for, is really to help that family. And I think that's why it exists. So it's not a great book. It's a very short read. It was my first. There will be 2.0 hopefully. I don't know when, but it's basically 12 life lessons of everything that the obstacles that I have to overcome in life that I used as life lessons. Because we can either say that life happens to us or for us, right? And all of the pain and the bad things that happen in my life, I use those as learning lessons to be able to help me become a better person.
Wow, what a great story and a great motivation for, writing a book. I love it. So
Thank you.
I want to go back a little bit to the topic of real estate. That's our favorite topic, and the reason why both of our companies exist, your company and our company. You mentioned that some of the challenges in the real estate market include the abundance of, let's say, real estate agents, and the shortcut, the short process or the quick process through which you become an agent. And so from that point of view, you've innovated yourself. You're using technology, you're using blockchain, you are doing global transactions. So you also mentioned the difficulty of transactions, right? And a lot of people involved in this transaction, and somehow when things fall apart, then you have to pick up the pieces. I wonder if there is an easier way, since we got the technology and we have the blockchain to do these transactions in general, to operate real estate. And because real estate, is an industry that's existed since the beginning of time. People need to live somewhere, and they need to dwell. They need to also work somewhere outside of a cave. But what are we seeing in 2020, and that we need to innovate, and we need to reinvent ourselves in real estate.
Yeah. So, for me, COVID's a horrible thing. I mean, so many people lost their lives, but for me, it has helped my business explode, because a year before COVID happened, I was the first virtual real estate company, and no one knew what virtual even meant. Everybody said, "What do you mean by virtual?" They didn't get it. So now everybody knows what virtual is. So they're like, "Oh my God, I met this girl a year ago, a woman now, right?" and
Yeah.
she already has this virtual business. So I'm getting so much business, so many referrals that
I was on a tour with you in Mexico. That was a tour of a hotel, and it was so much fun. I felt like we were there. Yes. Okay. Cool. So you had a vision back in the day that people need to be able to see it with an experience with their own eyes, right? And so
correct.
nobody got it.
Yes, without, so not all, but I think the main reason I wanted to have a virtual company was, number one, so I didn't have the expense of the real estate, the brick and mortar business, because I saw all these offices with flies completely empty and all this money being spent. So I wanted to have a sustainable business model. And a sustainable business model, you cannot have offices for so many reasons, right? Because commissions have gone down, agents' commission splits have gone up, rents have gone up, but the commission you charge the clients has not gone up. Everything has gone up. So it's no longer sustainable. And
Right.
that's why I wanted to have the virtual real estate company. So I think moving forward with COVID, I think what's going to happen is, my personal opinion, at least 30% of the workforce will never go back. So that's going to change so many things, because people now realize that technology does exist, that you could conduct business from anywhere in the world. So, I just sold 2 apartments that the person never put their foot into the property.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was the first in the history of New York. So
Wow.
it's happening. It's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Because what if the place smells horrible? What if you hate the hallways or the block? It's dangerous.
Was there their first transaction with you, or you've done some transactions?
But if you have a trusting real estate agent that can give you the possible, But I think that's what we have to create now, is to be able to really, I know smell won't be able to be replaced. You know, we're not going to be able to pass the smell from here to you. Uh, so that's a little tough, but I think we can almost duplicate everything else.
Got it. That's really fascinating. So you mentioned that you're working in New York. Is there anything specific to the New York real estate that you've seen recently, some trends that people need to be aware of?
Yeah, so it's actually crazy wild because everybody wants to be in New York City. And actually 300,000 people moved out of New York City.
Wow.
Everybody not everybody, because there's still 8 million people there, right? So 300 still, it's a big number, but it's not a significant amount. But happening is everyone, not everyone again, but most people, a lot of people have moved out of the city because rents were too high, but also because we have a mayor, it's expensive to a point that may not make sense financially anymore to live in the city. So a lot of people decided to move out. Some of them have moved out to the suburbs because instead of living in a small apartment, now you can have a home that most likely will be working virtually anyways. So it's commutable. So if they ever have to go back to the office, it's close enough that they can commute to it. While before that was not an option, but that was one reason. The second reason is because unfortunately, there's a lot of homelessness now in Manhattan where we didn't have that before, and the crimes have gone up. So people want to be safe. So those things are have impacted the city. It's not every neighborhood, you know, like financial districts being great. There's some parts of the Upper East Side still great. There's some pockets of areas that have gotten pretty bad. But here's the good news. When things like happen, like think about 9/11, this is a chance because the price have gone down. So this is Manhattan, we're resilient. New York City, we're resilient. It's gonna come back. So this is your chance to buy at a discount. So Manhattan is on sale. The rental prices are low. So you can live in the city for the price you used to live in the suburbs. I just sold 3 apartments at a record low price.
Wow.
And the thing with New York City is that by the time you realize this, we have hit bottom, it's too late. So this is it. We have hit bottom. And if somebody wants to buy something for a good price, this is the time now. You want to invest in Manhattan real estate, this is the time now.
Got it. And have you noticed the sizes of the apartments bought? Because I heard in many other cities, people are buying now like 1 extra room for an office, you know, and also buying kind of on the outskirts, sometimes on the beach, you know, because they don't have to be in the office anymore. Have you noticed that?
People, yeah, square footage is it's no longer location. My opinion now, it's location, but square footage, because people can work anywhere now. It's amazing, you know? So I've been working virtually for now 2 years. And, you know, we do miss the cooler, you know, conversation with your buddies, but like with social media technology, like literally we're doing FaceTime now like that, as opposed to picking up the phone and calling.
And
And
Zoom drinks.
like, oh my God, we are all getting zoomed out too, right? There's so many Zoom meetings. So, you know, the world is a different place. I mean, I think it's for better because people are getting much more familiar with technology, feeling more comfortable taking advantage of technology. And an example, there's some aggregators that we use that we get a lot of leads from. Now we can put a link within the MLS that goes into those platforms that you can do the live open houses like the one you're experienced. I would never have been able to get them to create this section there that I can put these links before, but because of COVID, it's there now. So that helped me so much as a virtual company. But you'd be surprised, actually, a lot of people agents do not know how to use technology. They do not know how to use Zoom. They don't know how to use, they don't know how to do virtual tours, virtual reality tours. They don't know a lot of things, unfortunately.
Right. It's interesting that, you know, even through COVID, people are always looking for places to invest, also places to live. So real estate is really, you know, is always a living and breathing industry, right? You're either selling or buying at any time.
So what I realize is anyone who's in the food industry, they're booming. Like supermarkets are booming because everything was closed but the supermarkets. So everybody has to eat, and they're killing it. Um, the restaurant industry is suffering so much. But you're right, food, shelter, necessity food, not like restaurant food, but like supermarket food, shelter is something that's never going to go away. People have to have a place to live. So that's, the reason why I got into real estate is just because I wanted to help people in the happiest day of their life, which typically is when they.
Wow. It's a lot of good energy, right? People are imagining living in a new place, raising a family. Yeah.
Yeah. My mission is to, number one, to sell the most expensive homes all over the world. And
Nice.
number two is to create remarkable experiences. Because the problem because of the low barrier of entry in this business, a lot of agents they never got trained. So they do a terrible job with the customer experience. And it's so easy for me to do that. That's all I know. It's almost like
Yeah.
having a hospitality business that you want to treat people like they're in a 5-star hotel. That's what I do.
That is so cool. So, all right. So I have a question about your clients. So how do they find about you? Is it a lot of word of mouth?
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, the high net worth and sports entertainment clients. So here's what's fascinating, right? Because I've been in real estate for 18 years, but I was an executive. So I was managing thousands of agents. So going back into the field and selling again, it's just like completely different. So literally, although I had a lot of contacts, it's still starting all over again. I built a database, not the 10,000 plus that I had in my database, but a new one of 800 contacts that before COVID, obviously, over the course of a year. But once you know what you want to do, then now you have a mission. Once you have a mission, you tell other people what your mission is. Then they start thinking, oh, who do I know? It's just amazing. It's fascinating. You just have to know what you want. So I started telling people that but to backtrack, the reason why I decided to focus on sports entertainment was because because of the fitness industry, because I was a bodybuilder, I had an A-list celebrity contact me to potentially work for him. But when that happened, I said, wait a minute. No. I said, instead of me working for you, why don't you invest in my company? And then I flew to Bel Air. I'm sitting at this, mansion and pitching to him on investing in my business. And he said, well, if your company was worth $100 million, I would. But you're smart and you're going to do great. He ended up never investing in my business. But because I had to meet him, I shifted my entire business model to be catered to helping him. So that means selling super high-end homes, aviation, yacht, and luxury cars, because that's all the things he owned. And so that's how we all began, because I realized, oh my God, and it was so difficult to meet with him because I had to hide, and we had like security guards, and he was so worried about his privacy. He was so worried about everything and confidentiality. And I couldn't even know the location until like 2 minutes before, so no paparazzi will show up. So it was very, very challenging. So I realized, wow, there's a tremendous need for trust in that space, because there's not a woman focused in that space. I'm the first.
Nice.
So I decided to think about, okay, how can I help them? And that's how it began. And then once then I started networking with entertainment attorneys, with entertainment banks that specialize with entertainment clients, and producers and talent agents. And that's how we all began. And then I started putting it out there also in social media and also to my network. And then I started getting referrals.
So you mentioned about being a woman in this business. What else is different about, being a woman in business in general, and tech, and real estate?
Unfortunately, I feel like I have to work harder than a man, and I have to prove myself more. And especially being a beautiful woman like you in the business, sometimes people think that you're not smart enough because you're pretty, and that you have a different agenda. So I almost have to like be super professional and just make sure they know that I'm there and it's business. But I always have to prove myself a little bit more. I think that's at least how I feel. Hopefully one day that will change. But that's, I think, how it's different in our industry, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you with that. Before we wrap up, I want to go back to blockchain because you mentioned all the way in the beginning of our conversation, and that's also something obviously that Solidblock does, puts real estate on the blockchain, enables um, easy transactions and people owning real estate in a fractional manner, being able to own a part of real estate, you know, without all of the headaches that people have to go through to buy units. And I wanted to know your opinion about where blockchain is most useful in real estate.
Um, I love the fact that right now it's so antiquated in real estate, right? So most people still are emailing documents. They're still like ink signatures. Like really, it's just so inefficient and it's not safe. Well, what I love about blockchain is that it's safe and it's secure and it's efficient. That's why I think everybody needs to embrace it. And it just saves so much time. But unfortunately, most people are not really ready for it yet. So hopefully, with this whole COVID, people are now getting more used to using technology. So hopefully, that will be the future.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So the safety and security are definitely something you need when you're buying a huge asset. For some people, this is the largest asset they will ever own. You know, and in my opinion, it's unfortunate that a lot of people don't even have access to assets and owning an asset because they can't come up with a down payment or, you know, they can't find somebody to bring them to their most important asset, right? So I think
Yeah.
blockchain is solving one of the most important problems, and that one is lack of opportunities for ownership. I think for many people, right, and growth. People who want to win, like you and me, people who want to grow and you know, become business owners, homeowners, and so on. So
I
that's
love
my
I
take
love
on it.
that. And I think once we have some more um, proof of concept
Right.
and people see and they have friends that have now invested through fractional ownership, they will want more because unfortunately most of the investment opportunities are for accredited investors
Right.
and there's an absolute need for that. And if blockchain and with you is how it could be done, I think there's definitely a need for it.
Yeah. Awesome. So on this note, I just want to thank you so much, Luciane. That was absolutely lovely, as usual. And
Usually
wish you
the best for last, so you actually made the best first.
the
So
best first. And yeah, and there, you know, and hopefully they won't be last. Hopefully we'll do this for many years to come, you know, as long as real estate exists and we exist, we'll continue. But yeah, I wanted to start with the first, best for the first, for sure. And I we'll have you again. I'm sure we'll have you again. We'll have more stuff to talk about.
thank you so much, and
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye, Lucian.
Bye bye.